Hi, I'm Justina from Practice Academy. In this video, Neesha covers job costing and batch costing, two fundamental costing methods used across the accounting and finance world. Whether you're studying ACCA, CMA, or any other accounting qualifications, these concepts appear across multiple papers and exams. And they come up in business life too. By the end of this video, you'll know the difference between a job and a batch, how to build a cost card, how to calculate cost per unit in a batch, and how to price a job using margin versus markup, which is a classic exam trap, regardless of whichever qualifications you're studying for. Neesha works through two full examples so you know exactly how the numbers come together. Over to you, Neesha.
So today we're going to discuss about different costing methods we have not already covered. So we'll be talking about job and batch costing and job and batch costing. Then we'll also talk about service costing. So how do we cost a service? And we'll also talk about the characteristics of a service and therefore the particulars we need to consider when costing a service. And thereafter, I want to discuss three main things. One is activity-based costing, so an extension in a sense of absorption costing, which we already discussed in Chapter 8. Then we'll be talking about life cycle costing. And finally, target costing. Now, the three marked in red, we're not going to do any complex calculations or anything, but I want you to understand the concept well. Whereas job and batch costing as well as service costing, let's do an example also and see how this can be done. So in this video, let's focus on job and batch costing. So what is a job? So a job is a cost unit that consists of a single order or contract. So the key term here is a single order, a single contract. So therefore, each job can be identified separately and cost can be attributed to each job. So an example given here is a construction of a ship. That's one job. So that job will have different cost elements attached to it. So a batch is a cost unit that consists of separate but a collection of a group of units for which cost is incurred. So sometimes it's not always possible, or we don't always produce something as a single unit. Sometimes we produce it as a batch. For an example, production of 1,000 pairs of shoes might happen in a batch. So then it will be a batch-related job costing. So cost per unit manufactured in a batch, how do we get the cost per unit? We simply get the total batch cost and divide it by the number of units in each batch. So that's how we would get the cost per unit for a batch. So now we'll look at some characteristics of job and batch costing. So generally, for a job, there will be processes and operations that will take place, most likely in a factory, in a workshop. And generally, a customer might approach and give us the requirements of a particular job, and then we will work on that particular job. Now, that job might be a batch we need to produce, might be a single unit, but ultimately, we need to prepare an estimate or a quote for the job. And this is where job and batch costing comes into play. This is where job or batch costing comes into play. So once the batch is so if we have a batch costing system, once the batch is completed, the cost per unit can be calculated as the total batch cost divided by the number of units in the batch, which we spoke about above. So therefore, batch costing is when we have more than one unit produced at a time, because We have to input raw materials, we process it, we assemble it, we might have to do quality control, and then we have our finished goods. So cost cards are basically either for an individual job or batch. We have a sheet of cost we might record. So this can be drawn up either using absorption costing or marginal costing. So we might include our direct cost, which is our prime cost, and we might include fixed overheads. So if we include fixed overheads, then this will be absorption costing. So that's something to consider. So we'll do an example. So this is not too complicated. Job costing and batch costing is fairly simple. We'll see how you can practically apply it. So let's do a question together. So here we have a company is preparing for job A. The job requires materials worth $1,500 and 300 hours of labor. Labor is paid at $6 per hour. Variable overheads are absorbed at the rate of $2 per hour and fixed overhead at the rate of $3 per labor hour. So both are absorbed, both variable and fixed overheads are absorbed based on labor hours. What is the total cost for job A? So the total costs in the job card or the job sheet we could see consist of materials, labor, and other direct expenses and overheads. So first we'll have material here. So under material we will have $1,500 of material was used. So we can include that here. Then when it comes to labor, we see that 300 hours of labor was used. Labor is paid $6 an hour. So 300 into 6, 1,800. Then we have variable overheads at $2, again absorbed using labor hours. $6 into 2, which will be 600. And then we have fixed overheads, which again will be absorbed using labor hours and at $3, so which will be 900. So our total cost for job A is 4,800. Now, we are not told that this is a batch. Therefore, it's simply a part of job costing. So simply, job costing is identifying all the costs, including it in a job. That is the basic cost of the job. So, total cost of job A. Now let's look at an example of batch costing. So how do we conduct batch costing? So we have a company that manufactures product A and has the following budgeted overheads for the year. So welding, budgeted overheads are $15,000. Budgeted activity is 3,000 labor hours. Then assembly, budgeted overheads are 20,000. Budgeted activity is 5,000 labor hours. Selling and administrative overheads are 20% of factory cost. An order of 1,000 units of product A, called batch 50, incurred the following cost. Materials 24,000, labor 200 hours in the welding department at $5 per hour, labor 400 hours in the assembly department at $10 per hour. $1,000 was paid for the hire of X-ray equipment for testing the accuracy of the welds. Calculate the cost per unit of batch 50. So remember, since it's a batch, we'll get the total cost of the batch. Then we'll look at the total amount produced in the batch, which is 1,000 units. So divide the total cost by 1,000 to get the cost per batch. So the first step is to calculate the overhead absorption rate for the production department. So basically the overhead absorption rates, we'll have two rates. So I'll calculate them over here. So 15,000 divided by, for welding, it will be 15,000 divided by 3,000, which will give us $5 per labor hour. And then we have for assembly. For assembly, it will be 20,000 divided by 5,000. We'll have $4 per labor. So I hope that is clear. So now to calculate the total cost, as per the cost sheet, we'll have direct material. So direct material given here is 24,000. So we can include that straight away. Pretty straightforward. Then we have direct expenses. We have direct labor. So direct labor is 200 hours in the welding department at $5 per hour. So welding and assembly. So welding, it will be 200 into 5, if I'm correct. Yeah, 200 into 5, 400 into 10 for assembly. 400 into 10 for assembly. So that will be 1,000 and 4,000. So therefore, it will be a total of 5,000 for direct labor. That will give us our prime cost. So our prime cost will be $29,000. Then we have our overheads. So for overheads, we have our welding and assembly related overheads. We have the welding and assembly related overheads. So welding and assembly. So this is why we calculated the overhead absorption rate. So it will be 5 into, and it will be 4 into 200 hours. 5 into 200 hours used, and 4 into 400 hours used. So that was given above. Over here, we had that given over here. So we can just include those two bits of information. So that will be 1,000. And that will be 1,600. I hope that was clear. So that will be 2,600 as the overheads. Then we have the factory cost. So total factory cost therefore will be 31,600. Then we have the selling and administrative cost that we need to include. So selling and administrative cost are 20% of factory cost. So what is the factory cost? 31,600 multiplied by 20%. We will have factory cost as 6,320. Then we have the total cost. So total cost will be 37,920. So this is our total cost. Cost per unit will be 37,920 divided by 1,000, which will give us $37.92 per unit. So I hope that was clear. So we can see how we work through the information in the question to get our total cost. So now what about pricing? Now we have determined cost. How can we determine pricing? Now to arrive, so now in a question on the exam, you may be asked to accumulate cost to arrive at a job cost, and then to determine the job price by adding a particular amount of profit. Now the interesting thing is the selling price can be expressed either as a percentage margin or a percentage markup. So generally when you have the word margin, we're talking about selling price equals 100. So it's based on the selling price. When we're talking about markup, that means cost equals 100. Okay? So having this in mind, 100%, let's see how this works. So selling price based on a margin. A selling price based on a 20% margin means that profit is 20% of the selling price. That means selling price is 100, profit is 20. So if you are taking it as the price is 100, profit is 20, then our cost should be 80. That's for margin. Now if you said markup, if you use the word markup, then we will have, like I mentioned, our cost will be 100 and our profit will be 20. Therefore, our selling price will be 120. So markup is based on cost. Cost is 100. Whereas the margin is based on the selling price. That's an easy way to remember and to avoid any confusions. So we'll see how we can apply this in a question. So it's a simple question, but you can apply this knowledge we learned. Product A, unit cost is 200. Selling price is set based on a margin of 20%. Product B, unit cost is $600. The markup is 20%. Product C, selling price is 800. The markup is 10%. So therefore, this is based on selling price. This is based on, or both of these is based on cost. So cost will be 100%. Selling price will be 100. So based on that, product A, what are the selling prices of product A and B and the unit cost for product C? So in percentage, product A is based on the selling price. So that means this will be 100. 20% means profit will be 20, cost will be 80. Then we are also given information that the unit cost is 200. Now we need to find the selling price. So that means 200 represents 80%. 200 represents 80%. But what do we need to find? We need to find 100%. So 100%, we have 80% here. We have 80% there. So now we need to calculate the correct answer. So basically 80. We don't need to actually put the percentages as such. This might confuse you. So this will be 5, 4, and then you have again 50. So 50 into 5 is 250. Then the selling price will be 250. Therefore, what should the profit be? Profit should be 50. Then if you look at the second one, it's based on a markup of 20%. That means cost will be 100. Profit will be 20. Total will be 120. And we have been given the unit cost of 600. So how do we do this? We need to find the selling price. So selling price represents 120. So that will be 600 multiplied by 120 divided by 100 because we have 100. We need to find 120. So this will be 12 into 6. So 720. So the selling price here will be 720. That means what's our profit? Our profit is 120. The final one, our selling price is 800. Selling price is 800. Our markup is 10%. So markup is based on cost. That means 100, 10. This should be 110. Now here we need to find the unit cost or the cost. So we have to find 100. We have 110. So that will be 800 into 100 and we have 110. So when we solve this, we will get an answer of 727. So the answer here should be 727. We add a margin of how much to get the of 73, or we add a markup rather of 73. Our profit is 73 to arrive at the selling price of $800. So I hope this is clear. So this part of it on the right hand side is simple mathematical equation to find the answer for the relevant proportion you're looking for. So remember, markup is based on cost, margin is based on selling price. So in our next video, we'll have a look at service costing.
That was Neesha on job and batch costing. The key things to take away is that a job is a single order costed individually. A batch is a group of units where you divide a total cost by the total number of units to get a cost per unit. And remember, margin is based on selling price, markup is based on costs. That distinction comes up in every exam regularly. In the next video, Neesha covers service costing, what it is, what it's used, and how to calculate the cost of a service unit. If you're studying for ACCA MA or CMA and want to practice with exam-style questions, our question bank is linked in the description.